Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to do something a little different. I wanted to actually talk to you guys about the GR Corolla and what it's like taking it on a road trip. So a lot of people have asked about that, and a lot of people daily it and do a lot of short drives with it. But I've seen a lot of people ask about what it's like to take it for a road trip. And recently I took mine on a 2.5-week road trip. I covered 5,300 miles. And so I thought I would go ahead and discuss that and go over some of the things that I discovered, because this was the first time I'd done that with mine. So let's go ahead and do just that. Well, what better place to talk about how this car is on a road trip but from the place that I spent doing it, right from the driver's seat. So anyway, I took this trip, a little perspective here. I live in Washington State, and I drove originally from here down to Southern California. I was going down to Toyota Fest. I'm not a big fan of the interstates unless I have to take them just for time. So I did cover and use the interstate a little bit going down to Southern California and through Oregon. I'll try to kind of cover some of the things about speeds and what I also got for mileage and whatnot. But through Oregon, the speed limit is typically 65 through that section on I-5. I was typically traveling 70 to 75. I was usually in the 5 to 10 range over. I did use cruise control when I was doing that, and it was summertime, and so I did have the air on also. But driving down through there, it was my first surprise was, I think, as I started to spend more time in the car than I had locally, was how comfortable I found myself in the seats. I drove all the way down through. I did cut over to San Francisco, and I was north of San Francisco. I cut through on some back roads and whatnot, and I wanted to go through and try to see the Golden Gate Bridge. Luckily, the parks were open. Not so luckily, there was a fair amount of fog. Got some pics, but the drive was fantastic. So continued down through, up and over the Golden Gate Bridge and down to San Jose. There was a, well, I wish I had should have a map with me so I could refer to some of these roads. But there was a road I've been wanting to drive for quite some time that goes from San Jose over to I-5. And it's a back road up and over a couple of mountain ranges. If I recall right, it was about 100, maybe 120 miles. And it was fantastic. There was a little bit of construction at one point, but not for very long. And there was just nobody on this road, nobody. And I had a great time just ripping it. So a lot of fun. And that is one thing I absolutely love about this car. I feel like it is truly designed for the back roads, the twisties. And I was having the time of my life. So flying down through there. I don't really pay a lot of attention to speed when I'm on these back roads. I just go, and and I have a lot of fun. And so I know that some of the speed limits are probably a lot lower than what I'm going through them at, but I'm having a lot of fun through there and enjoying the car and what its capabilities are. So I did that one. I got back to I-5. I drove a couple hours farther south, and I cut over and I went east of I-5. I actually stayed the night. I was north of Bakersfield, California. There's a place I love driving up to. It's called Lake Isabella. And back in 2019, I had read an article in Car and Driver, and they were doing some testing on cars up there. And they were commenting about what a great area it was, and that there are 5 roads that go in and out of Lake Isabella, and every one of them is absolutely fantastic to drive. So I have been driving these different roads. So I have driven 3 of the 5 up to this point, and I was planning on driving the 4th one. So I spent the night, got up the next morning, and I drove about 20 miles, kind of a straight shot until I entered this road. And as I was heading east, it was a nice twisty road. It's kind of nice, gentle, swerving curves. And as I got up in elevation, it got tighter and tighter. And the scenery was gorgeous. The road was perfect. The surface was great. No traffic. It was absolute heaven. I mean, absolute heaven. And it was about, I think it was about 50 to 55 miles up to Lake Isabella. And the road was so great, I wanted to turn around and do it again. It was fantastic. So I did that. And then I drove down one of the other roads I'd already driven, which was also fantastic, back into Bakersfield. Then into LA, where I was headed down to Toyota Fest. So that was kind of my first leg. And the car did great. The car did absolutely fantastic. I had gotten, most of my tanks on this trip were in the 28 to 29 range. My worst tank I had was like 25.1. I had several tanks that were, I think 34 was my best tank, and I had a couple others in the 32, 33 range. My worst stretch that I had was 11 miles a gallon, I think. that was going up a twisty bit. So I had just happened to fill up and reset my fuel mileage gauge there, so I was able to kind of see what I did on that one. But it did really well. Just cruising at 70 miles per hour or so, it did very well. On the back roads, a lot of the back roads through Arizona and New Mexico, a lot of those were 60 to 65 mile per hour speed limit. So like I said, I was doing 5 to 10 over, so 70 to 75 on some stretches, 65 to 70 on others. But the car did very, very well. I had my fun in the middle of nowhere. I'm not going to lie. When there was absolutely nobody around me and nobody to be seen, I gave her the beans. So, and there was some nice wide open country through Wyoming that was absolutely fantastic with not a car in sight. She's very smooth at high speeds, by the way. Took her all the way to the top of Pikes Peak in Colorado. I experienced some brand new back roads in Arizona that I had never driven. I actually, I have a map, and I actually highlight every single road that I drive. So that I can try to hit roads that I haven't driven. So I like to hit the smaller back roads, and I have discovered just some fantastic roads and even seen things that I've never seen. Love it. Love it. So things you would never know looking at a map were even there. And I found that in Arizona again. I drove some roads, some of my favorite roads that I've driven in the past, and I drove them with this too. In fact, one of these days I think I'll do something like that. I'll do a video about some of my favorite roads and kind of break them down by maybe different regions or states or something like that. So because there's a lot of great roads out there, a lot of great ones. I've driven a lot of fun roads in California and Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, Oregon, and Washington, of course, where I'm up in Wyoming, Idaho, Montana. I'll tell you, the western states have just tons. And I feel really bad for people that live in flatlands like Florida and, the plains states and Kansas and Nebraska and stuff and Iowa and whatnot. And I know there's probably, a couple little fun ones here and there, but there's just, you gotta have mountains, guys. Mountains give you so many fun roads, and you never run out of them. There's just thousands and thousands of miles to go have fun and explore. So, but I will say, my GR Corolla never disappointed. It was so fun rolling through the gears through there. I have done the Racer X short shifter and the spherical bearings on it. I also have a Racer X pitch mount, and the shifting on this is it's glorious. It is so nice. I actually like it more than the Civic Type R. The Civic Type R it's almost too smooth. There's no feel to it. This is buttery smooth, but there's still just that little bit of mechanical feel. The mods have taken some of the notchiness out of it, which I didn't mind, but there's still a little bit of it there, which I still like that feel. I still enjoy it, but it's still super, super smooth, which I really like. So shifting was never a chore. I'll be honest, I can't imagine doing it with an automatic. I get very bored with an automatic. So I would never wish to trade out a manual for an automatic version of this, even if the automatic was slightly quicker. I don't care. It's less fun. I would rather have the fun. So, but anyway, man, guys, get out there, explore. I see some guys that they comment that how long they've had their car and they hardly have any miles on it. Take a road trip, get out there, and there's so much to see in North America. And if you live in a flat area, take it to drive, go somewhere. I've driven my 2009 Corolla Turbo to every single state but Hawaii and a lot of Canada. So there's a lot to see and do, Take some time off and vacation and go drive. But this car surprised me. The mileage was better than what I thought. I wasn't trying to get good mileage. I was just driving it to have fun. So I don't know how some people get such bad mileage. I know some guys that live in a city, they never do highway. When I take this into town, it's highway every time. So I have a lot more percentage of highway driving than some people do. So I'm going to get better mileage. One of my other friends that is in my local GR club, he has a lot more city driving than I do. So his overall mileage is a lot lower than mine is. But the car itself, fantastic. The ride. Let me talk about the ride. I was pleasantly surprised. Now, driving locally, the ride doesn't bother me, and it's perfectly set up for handling really well when I take it for drives. But 5,300 miles in 2.5 weeks is a lot of seat time. And I, the ride never bothered me. And I had plenty of roads that were good and bad, but the ride was very comfortable overall. Now, I am also fortunate because the comfort of this to me is I have a core, mine's a 23 loaded core, and I like the cloth seats. To me, they're much more comfortable and they breathe a lot better. In June in the Southwest, it's plenty hot. There were plenty of, the temperatures were almost every day were in the upper 90s or hundreds. And, but these breathe a lot better than the Alcantara type fabrics in the premiums and the circuit editions. So, I don't find that it's, as hot. And I know plenty of other owners that have told me that themselves, that the Alcantara can be very, very hot in the summer. But the cloth seats breathe really, really well, and I prefer that. They're more comfortable to me. And I never got tired of it. There were days that I spent, 16 hours in this seat, and my back never bothered me. I'm 6'2", 245 pounds, and my back never bothered me. And I've had 2 back surgeries in my life, and never an issue. I do wish it had lumbar support. I will say that. That would be a nice feature to have, but I never felt like I had to have it. The seats were very supportive and comfortable, and held me firmly in place for all my twisty fun. So comfort and ride. I can't complain really. Fantastic, and I'm still on stock suspension. Just to throw that out there, the tires are still stock, and the suspension is still stock. I do have an additional 15 millimeter spacers all around. But the suspension is all stock still. But fantastic. I think that it is far superior as far as ride comfort to the Civic Type R's that I've driven. They were much harsher. I can understand how that would be fantastic for a perfectly smooth track, but I generally don't track mine, and for just regular driving on public roads, this is far superior. Cruise control. I don't know whose idea it was at Toyota to put cruise control on buttons on the steering wheel. I mean, there's so many buttons on this now, but I sure do miss the stock, and I still actually go to it just by muscle memory sometimes. It drives me crazy when I actually have to look for the button to turn it on. With the stock, I never had to. I had somebody comment one time, well, maybe that's because of the radar cruise control and stuff. And no, that's not why. Because my 2017 RAV4 has radar cruise control, and it has a stock. But I could do everything from the stock without even looking at it. Disengage it, or accelerate, or turning it on and off, or whatever. And I never had to look at it a single time. So I do miss that. I wish that I could retrofit this somehow and have the stock and get rid of the cruise control buttons. But it's not like I won't get used to having it that way, but I just sure do prefer the stock. It was better. It was a better system. I really enjoyed having my fog lights. I've got dual switchback bulbs on there between white and amber. So it's nice being able to select that if you have different types of weather and different needs. and the bulbs are much brighter, so that is really nice. I did also notice that the Beat Sonic amp that I had added, the improvement in the sound for the stereo is definitely noticeable. I do want to take it to the next level. When I was at Toyota Fest, Beat Sonic had a booth there, so I picked up the additional wiring harness to add the sub into it, so I don't have to even splice anything. It goes right into the same wiring harness that I've already added, so it just goes right in line with those. So that's going to be really nice. So I'll show you a little bit here of what I've done. So here's my phone holder, and it's just nice and convenient because it's part of this right here. It just goes up and over and sits, just kind of slides over this, and then this mounts right to it. So pop that open and I can set my phone in it, and nice and easy peasy. So I actually hooked in before the trip. I had this little tray right here, which I thought would be handy just to have a little storage right there or whatnot. And I had this scan gauge too, and I had that previously in my old Previa that I pulled out before I sold that. And so I hooked that up before my trip because I have the ability to see up to 4 pieces of information with this. And I use that. One of the things that I can pull up on this is my intake air temperature, which I like. And it's kind of interesting to see the benefits of how that's working for any mods you might do. But I put this little piece of 1x2 there, and it raises it up, as you can see from my eyeballs, and it's just clears this so I can see it perfectly, and perfect shot there. So another thing that I really enjoyed on my road trip is before I went, I took out my absolutely worthless wireless phone charger here, and I put in a cubby hole, so I have extra space now, and that came in very handy for my trip. So still got my heated seat switches. I did upgrade this piece from just the plain plastic to the leather wrapped stitch piece, so that adds a nice touch. And I wrapped my interior piece, so it made it a nice little home. And then for road trips too, this was great because I've got my stupid car tray, which gives me 2 additional cup holders here, and then additional cubby holes and whatnot. And I use this a lot too. If I don't want my phone, I don't care about having it up top, I'll do this, and I'll just use my charger, and I'll plug this in right here, and then I'll just rest my phone just like this right here. So it's easy to see. And I couldn't have, this would have driven me nuts going on a road trip without my armrest. I love having this armrest. It doesn't bother me on short little drives, but on a long drive, this was fantastic to have. So it's a nice little area to be in. And then I also have a dash mat here. This is a velour mat from them. It is nice because it helps eliminate some of the glare that you can get off of the plastic dash, and the outgassing from the plastic too, so you don't get the film on the interior part of the windshield as quickly. It helps minimize that a little bit more. So But yeah, so there's just a couple things that made the trip a little bit more comfortable to me. So, interior space, no problem. No problem with space. As far as space for me, I mean, I can literally lock my legs while I'm driving here. I can slide my foot between the brake and the accelerator pedal and lock my leg. So allows me to completely stretch out if I want to. Between the back seat and the hatch area, more than enough space for anything I had on my trip. I did put a spare tire back there. I didn't want to go on a trip without a spare, so I did the spare tire mod, and the hatch area has more than enough space for anything that I was bringing for 2.5 weeks. Yeah, no problems there. There were really no negatives that I had with this car on the road trip. It performed flawlessly. It got better than expected mileage. It was more comfortable than I thought it was going to be for such an extended period in the seat. The only thing that I wish that it had, at least for a road trip, to make it enjoyable for me, is I do love a sunroof. And I wish that the core model, at least, had come with that option. There were plenty of times that, especially in the evenings or early mornings, or even at night, where I just love opening up the sunroof and getting the fresh air and seeing the stars at night or whatever. I absolutely love that. That was kind of where I found this. I was pleasantly surprised. Let's just put it that way. Pleasantly surprised. I had a smile on my face most of the time, I think, driving this. Definitely the time spent, the good majority of the time, was on back roads. Most of the interstate time that I spent, honestly, was on that first leg down to California. I did cut off of it for a little while, but that was the most interstate time I did from there. Almost everything else was back roads. And I spent a lot of up through the mountains of Wyoming and Montana and Idaho. Just gorgeous, fun roads. I met up with another GR Corolla owner. Brian in Bozeman, Montana, who owns a Marizo. So that was cool. I love meeting up with people that I've gotten to know online. So it's always fun to meet people face to face. And he was very kind in letting me drive his Marizo. I've never even gotten to sit in one before, so driving one was pretty cool, to say that I've actually gotten to do it. But I quickly, after that, though, I will say, at least for a road trip, I quickly appreciated how much more comfortable the regular seat is than the Marizo seat. Hey, for a track, I can understand that seat, and what you would want. But for a road trip, this seat in my core is much more comfortable. Oh, I guess the only thing that I noticed before I sign off here, the only thing I noticed on the trip and I didn't notice it on the trip. I noticed it when I got back from the trip, was I did the grill clips. The front grill clips on my grill broke. I had 3 clips that broke. And they broke on the second half of the trip because I washed the car really thoroughly at my mom's house, and they were fine there. They were not broken. And I noticed them broken when I got back home. So, but they did replace that under warranty, and I since have done a video. If you have not seen that, I did a video where I took it off and partially apart so that I could strengthen that bond between the grill and the bumper. And I don't think I will have any problems with that again. So I think I have solved that problem. So, but other than that, that was the only thing that came out of that trip that was a negative. And honestly, that would have happened sooner or later anyway. I keep seeing things where people notice that their grill clips have broken. So I just think it's a poor design. It's a weak design. If you've got a splitter lip, it's going to happen sooner because there's more downforce on it. But it's happening to people even without splitter lips. So just keep an eye on that. And if they're fine still, you might really consider looking at what I did and doing that yourself. I will go ahead and leave a link for that video so that you can kind of check that up if you haven't seen it. It's not hard to do. You do need to take off the front bumper to do it, but it's not hard to do. And I kind of go through what you need to do to take off the front bumper if you haven't done that. And I do have a full video on how to take off the front bumper too. So, but other than that, guys, I hope that that helps answer some questions on how this car is on a road trip. Like I said, absolutely phenomenal. I give it I give it a full 9.5 out of 10 on a road trip. I'll take half a point off because it doesn't have a sunroof. So, and that's my personal preference. But other than that, it was fantastic. I would not hesitate to take this on a road trip anywhere. A lot of fun, plenty of power. It never disappointed. Every time I asked for more power, it gave it to me. It never felt like it needed more than it was giving me. So in every little twisty bit from one turn to the next, it was right there. And the braking was right there. And the handling was right there. And every time I came into a corner a little hot because I didn't know the road, no problem. All I had to do was turn in a little bit more and it just followed the road. It was a thing of beauty. And I'm not lying here that I would sit there and I would do that and I would just shake my head going, what a magnificent car. I mean, because it just tracked. Wherever I turned the steering wheel, it just went. And like I said, I was surprised quite a few times on how tight a corner was, tighter than I was anticipating it. But magnificent. I absolutely love this car. And I truly don't understand how people don't like it and sell it. And the only thing I can think of is that because they don't take it and drive it where it's meant to be driven. So they're living in the flatlands or something and they don't enjoy it in the hills and the backcountry and the mountains where you really need to take it. And I would tell you that it's meant more for there than even a track. This is one beautiful car for that. And with winter coming up before you know it, be having fun in the mountains with that also. And that's where the all-wheel drive shines, where a lot of other cars like the Civic Type are. Can't do it. Can't do it. No handbrake. How can you have an enthusiast car like the Civic Type R and you don't have a true handbrake? You got the stupid little electronic parking brake. Give me a break. That is, to me, that's a deal breaker. How can you rotate the car with the brake when you can't brake it? That's just stupidest thing in the world. So, and if you live up north, you know, this is great because it's a heated steering wheel. You got heated seats. So when it's nice and cold outside, you know, you can stay nice and toasty. So anyways, any questions, comments? I would love to hear your thoughts on this. For those of you that were wondering about taking this for a road trip, and for those of you that have taken your GR Corolla for a road trip, I know some of you have. I noticed. I just saw that the guy that goes by the name of CarQuicks took his from Houston all the way up to somewhere on the East Coast, I think. And he had commented about it. And I've seen a couple other people. One of our local guys, he moved from Florida all the way up here to Washington State. So he's got a lot more fun roads to drive now. He's appreciating his car a lot more. But yeah, love to hear from you. So until next time, guys, we'll see you down the road.